So last night at the time of recording, Drew McIntyre has beaten Cody Rhodes in a 3 stages of hell match to win the WWE Championship, and the response I've seen has been largely positive. Hello everybody, it's Jack the Jobber, of course. Apologies for my quite unkempt appearance. I'm not trying to grow a beard. I just wasn't expecting to be recording a video today. I'm also recording at a different time of day to usual, so the light on the background, sorry. And indeed, there are positives to take from this booking decision. It makes me excited for the road to WrestleMania, but also a little bit cautious, and most of all, very intrigued. So let's take a look at everything that this could mean. The main reason I think people are positive about this booking decision, and I agree with this point as well, is that Drew McIntyre deserves it. He's very, very good, very, very popular, and has continually had his momentum stopped and started and stopped again by WWE's booking of him as a main event level heel. If Cody had beaten Drew here once again and retained the title, which most people thought was going to happen heading in, myself included, this is a shock booking decision. If Cody had won, then we would have seen, I think, a wave of fresh criticism aimed at the product. Why have they screwed Drew again? He's been spinning his wheels for so long. How many times has he lost to Cody now? But now, none of that matters. I am still a little bit skeptical though. We're going to have to wait and see how this new title reign of Drew's is handled, because I think WWE have 3 clear top stars in the men's division. And none of those are Drew McIntyre. I mean that in terms of who WWE see as their top stars of the men's roster, not necessarily who I think should be the top stars. I think it's quite clear now that Drew McIntyre needs to keep this title all the way until WrestleMania. And if at WrestleMania he ends up losing to a valiant babyface, maybe the winner of the Royal Rumble or maybe the winner of Elimination Chamber, then fair enough, as long as he holds the belt until then. I think that would make it quite a decent little title reign at the hottest point of the year for WWE, culminating in Drew playing the role of one of the big heels of WrestleMania 42. I think that's a good outcome. But the reason that I say I'm a little bit worried is because those 3 stars that I mentioned, I think, are Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk. Punk's busy at the minute being the World Heavyweight Champion over on Raw, so we can kind of put him to one side in our minds for now. But what about the other 2? If we think back to the end of that War Games match at Survivor Series and the tension there between Cody and Roman, that all seemed absolutely tailor-made to set up a major clash between the 2 at WrestleMania. And people weren't that on board, were they? Another Cody versus Roman match at WrestleMania. Well, if this happens again, that will be 3 times in the last 4 years. 4 times if we count the tag match alongside The Rock and Seth Rollins on the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania 40. And that's the reason this worries me, because I don't see how Drew McIntyre, now the WWE Champion, fits into those plans. Because I think a lot of people would share this same opinion as me as well. I absolutely do not want Drew McIntyre to be a transitional heel champion, funneling the belt from Cody to Roman or whoever before the grandest stage of them all in April. I think that would be really bad. I want this title change to really mean something for Drew. But just from the way that the different stars are aligned, especially on SmackDown, that doesn't seem possible. Unless WWE just book Cody versus Roman on its own merits, because they're both huge stars, and keep that title belt way out of the equation. Kind of like what they did on night 1 of last year's WrestleMania with the triple threat between Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, which, remember, wasn't for any title. This would free up Drew to defend the belt against a worthy babyface. I'll say who in a little bit, but I suspect many of you probably already have this person in mind as well. WWE are treading quite a thin line here. It's dangerous because I think that many of the more tempting or easier booking options involving their very top stars risk upsetting the fan base, which is at its touchiest and smarkiest heading in to WrestleMania season. If they take that belt off Drew in the meantime, I could see it really upsetting the apple cart. Looking briefly ahead just to the Royal Rumble, I think that Drew's title defense there would likely be against Cody or Jacob Fatu or both of them in a triple threat, just based on how last night's match went down. If you haven't seen it yet, it was a 3 stages of hell match with the final fall taking place inside of a steel cage, with the title very much able to change hands on an escape. And with Drew on the verge of winning, he was stopped by a very mysterious balaclava-clad man. A little bit too soon for that trope to be reused, I think, since the Austin Theory angle, but okay. And this man was revealed to be none other than Jacob Fatu. But Jacob didn't cost Drew the match. He tried to, but then Cody, being such a damn good guy, stepped in, got into a brawl with Jacob himself, allowing Drew to squeak out of there and win the belt. Now, Jacob is returning from injury. He was written off a few months ago after being mysteriously ambushed backstage by an unknown assailant, which we all assumed to be Drew at the time, because Drew was meant to face Jacob later on that same night. Instead, Cody stepped in as the valiant babyface champion, and he faced Drew instead. If I had to guess, I'd assume that Drew squeaks out of the Royal Rumble event with his title reign intact, with Cody and Jacob getting in each other's way and perhaps setting up a little feud between the pair of them to tide them over until Elimination Chamber, possibly even continuing in the Chamber match itself. And let's talk about Cody now, because whenever a big title change happens, there are two things we need to look at. Not only how it affects the winner of the belt, but also how it affects the loser. And despite supporting this title change itself as a booking decision, I am not a fan of the finish particularly, because I think you could argue that it makes all three wrestlers involved look weak or lucky, or it makes the fans look at all three men negatively in some way. Drew looks very fortunate and quite weak, as I've mentioned, because he cheated to win the first fall, lost the second fall, and got really lucky to win the third. That's probably fine though, because Drew is a heel. Jacob looks really silly because his plan to stop Drew from winning the title resulted in the exact opposite. But I don't think that has too much of an impact on Jacob because he's still really badass and cool. The audience aren't going to read too much into his decision-making process because that's not why we like Jacob far too. It'd be like if Steve Austin made this same mistake. People wouldn't turn on Austin for doing this. They would just be like, well, it's Austin. He's still really badass and cool. But the perception of Cody Rhodes is where things get very, very dicey. And they get very interesting as well. Cody Rhodes looks like an idiot here, and not for the first time since returning to WWE. As I mentioned, in the match itself, Drew was about to lose. Jacob was beating him down until Cody stepped in and stopped Jacob, presumably because he's just so virtuous and he doesn't want to defend the title in that way. The problem is that this is the way Cody's been booked before, and it always makes him look really bad, and I think it causes his popularity to take a massive hit each time. Like when he lost to Roman at WrestleMania 39 and then blindly trusted Brock Lesnar of all people the following night and got savagely beaten down because of it. Or like at last year's WrestleMania where Cody refused to cheat against the constantly cheating John Cena, and it cost him the match and the title. And look, I know this is an old trope in wrestling. The ultimate good guy, the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the person who will never do anything wrong. Cody Rhodes has gone on record before saying he sees himself as a Luke Skywalker guy, not a Darth Vader guy. Cody has also said in the past that his favourite wrestler ever is Sting. Over the course of his run, Sting was famously way too trusting. It became a meme how many times Sting was betrayed or let down by his allies. But then, this warped Sting, and it turned him into the ultimate anti-hero, this vigilante against the invading NWO forces. He became one of the most memorable wrestling characters of the 90s, so maybe WWE should use this as inspiration in the case of Cody Rhodes, but not stop there and take things even more warped, take things even further. I know that WWE want to make Cody Rhodes this uncomplicated white meat babyface, the hero of the people, the quarterback of WWE, the Hulk Hogan or the John Cena of this particular generation. I just don't know if that's going to fly. It was noted last night on social media that when Cody was making his entrance for this match, you could hear some boos. And you could argue that, Cody's opponent, Drew, is very, very popular, and specifically very popular in Europe, where the match took place. But at the same time, this isn't the only time that we've heard a mixed or muted reaction to Cody Rhodes' entrance. And Cody's been stuck in this kind of very difficult situation before during the latter days of his time in AEW, where his staunch commitment to being the good guy at all costs caused the fans to turn on him. We are at quite a critical point here with the booking of Cody Rhodes, a wrestler, remember, who WWE see as absolutely central to their ongoing product. So this is a very important time. He has been booked badly before in recent memory, and you get the feeling that if WWE don't put serious thought and consideration into this, then things could turn very ugly for Rhodes on the road to WrestleMania. We'll return to Cody in a second, but back to Drew now, because I think that WWE, assuming that things all go well and Drew's allowed to keep the title until WrestleMania, and assuming that Cody and Roman is maybe kept away from the belt I think WWE have the chance to tell a very compelling story with Drew McIntyre as a heel champion. And it's a story that's kind of ready-made for them to use. You might have noticed that this year's Royal Rumble is taking place in Saudi Arabia. And you know who's really popular and very unbeatable in Saudi Arabia? Sami Zayn. After a short period on the sidelines, I'm very relieved to see Sami back in action on the house show circuit because he has an inbuilt storyline straight to the main event of WrestleMania, one that he's told us before, the fact that he has never won a world title in WWE. If Sami wins the Rumble, or failing that, the Elimination Chamber match, but it's got to be the Rumble, right, in Riyadh, then Sami is tailor-made as the candidate to beat Drew and win his first ever WWE Championship on the grandest stage of them all. Happy days, that would be fantastic, etc., etc. And then, what if, and forgive me for the fantasy booking here, but what if, on the Raw after WrestleMania 42, Sami's victory celebration is interrupted by Cody Rhodes, who gives Sami a big hug, heartily congratulates him, and then savagely just beats him down. Yes, Cody Rhodes needs to turn heel. I know that he's not maybe as polarizing as somebody like Roman Reigns was in the mid-2010s, or like Rocky Maivia back in the 90s when WWE were first trying to push him as a babyface, but if WWE want to keep Cody fresh and create the most compelling product possible, then he needs to turn heel, I'm afraid. Cody's journey in wrestling makes him the perfect candidate for this sort of storyline. He literally left WWE and formed their biggest rival promotion of a generation, then came back, rose to the top, and the fans turned on him. Why? For being too nice. That's great motivation for a heel turn. It's kind of a similar position to when Bret Hart turned heel, in that Cody can use this to feel like he is totally in the right and completely aggrieved by the perception the fans have of him. Importantly though, I wouldn't want this to be just like a rehash of the John Cena stuff from last year, the old you people heel justification for Cena's actions. Maybe Cody would be better as a character if he refused to accept what the fans were saying. If he didn't turn on them, he was just kind of unwilling to accept that he was a heel now. Cody Rhodes could be the ultimate deluded heel who still thinks that he's a babyface. I think that would work so well, and I don't think there's a single wrestler, maybe in the world today, better positioned to pull off that character more than Cody Rhodes. We might need a bit more justification if WWE went down this route for Cody turning heel, more than just, you know, the overarching stuff, but like a specific inciting incident. I mean, you could have the Jacob Fatu backstage attack be revealed to be at the hands of Cody Rhodes, I guess, if you wanted to go that way, if WWE could find a smooth enough justification for it to work in storyline. I think the better option might just be to have Cody lose to Roman at WrestleMania, because the fans tend to prefer Roman these days to Cody anyway, and I think the response to Cody losing would be entirely unsympathetic and would act as great motivation. Anyway, last night's booking decision has thrown a lot in the air, and I think it could end up being very good, but WWE are treading a very fine line here, and they need to be very careful. But if it all goes right, then we could have a really good road to WrestleMania, and hopefully a really good WrestleMania itself, because in the wider context of everything, WWE kind of badly need this WrestleMania to go well. Not financially, they're making loads of money as we all know, but just in terms of goodwill from the fans, because last year's WrestleMania, they absolutely messed it up, and next year's will attract criticism because it's in Saudi Arabia. So Mania 42, in the grand scheme of things, I think is pretty crucial in terms of momentum. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in that comment section down below. What do you think of last night's title change? What do you think of the road to WrestleMania, and what would you like to see happen? Thank you very much for watching. I have been Jack the Jobber. This has been a bit of an impromptu video, but I'm glad I got it out there, and I'm eager to know what everybody thinks. Like, share, and subscribe to the video, and all that YouTube stuff, and I'll see you very soon.